Licorice Pizza is written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars Cooper Hoffman, Elena Haim, Bradley Cooper, and among others. And in this story, it's set in 1972 in the San Fernando Valley, where you have Gary Valentine, who's played by Cooper Hoffman, who is a very up-and-coming young actor who wants to try to make it into being an actor and everything and just follow his life and follow his dreams. And he ends up, and also trying to own his own business, and he ends up meeting this girl named Elena Kane, who's played by Elena Haim, and it's this older girl that he meets and tries to basically get to know her and everything, and they unravel a strong friendship together as the movie goes along, and they get into all kinds of different shenanigans and misadventures. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, which really needs no introduction because he directed my favorite movie of all time, which is Magnolia. And I've always had a fascination with this director because I really enjoy the movies that I really enjoy the most with him include movies that are set in California, including Boogie Nights, Magnolia, of course, and Punch Drunk Love, which I consider the three main movies to go to as far as him like mixing a lot of great themes that he puts in with to symbolize a lot of stuff and with the characters and just the very different situations the characters are involved in, and all the different casts that he include are very top notch. And so there are some other ones I really do need to check out that he has done, including There Will Be Blood, which I've seen parts of, but I still need to finish that one. From what I have watched that movie, it is really good, but I haven't really finished it. And then there was also Inherent Vice and The Phantom Thread, which I haven't seen, but I heard they're good. But I do remember watching this other one he did called The Master, which came out in 2012 that had Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman, which may rest in peace. That movie I remember liking, but I haven't seen it since it first came out. And so going into the trailers of this movie got me really interested because the casting behind it I thought was pretty interesting because they involved with Cooper Hoffman, who is the son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, who worked tremendously with a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's films. And so when I was seeing the trailers for this coming out, it kind of looked like a cross between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with the way it's set in the old California, the 70s California era, and then also like a mix with Punch Drunk Love, which was also very reminiscent of what this movie kind of reminded me of, where in that movie you had Adam Sandler, who is also getting into falling in love with this girl that he meets. And so going into the previews, I really got really hyped for it because it would actually be the first time I would see a Paul Thomas Anderson film in the theater because I've never seen one before. So it took actually a couple months before this could actually come arrive because from when it first came out, it went into limited areas, and then I heard it got into a wide release in theaters. But unfortunately, where I live at, we don't really get these kind of like independent or these kind of movies that really come out too often until they get closer to the Oscar awards. And so to cap off 2021, I ended up seeing this movie finally in the theaters, and I gotta say that this definitely is in my top 10 best movies of the year of 2021, and better late than never, but I really love this movie a lot. To get into my pros, the cast I thought were fantastic. I thought Cooper Hoffman and Elena Haim were tremendous in this, and it may seem like it's weird because I'm not trying to go into too much detail with the movie, the way it plays out, but there has been some controversy from the way that the movie plays itself, with it being him pretty much being, falling for this girl that's tremendously older than him. But I think the way the movie plays it out, it's like they're really more like friends in a way than they are really pushing anything as far as like actually lovey-dovey with each other. And the way that the characters are actually kind of in on it, they actually kind of point out how it is very, well, at least Elena Haim's character kind of points out how it's very odd how he would be interested in a very older girl is like her. And so I could see a lot of the problems that a lot of people would have with the movie by watching it, and the way that the movie builds with the way that they build with their friendship and everything, I thought it was heartwarming, it was genuine, and it really showcases a lot of the great chemistry that these two actors have together. And I really got into it a lot. But with that being said, though, I got to really enjoy the performances in this were fantastic as well, including from Bradley Cooper, who plays the famous producer in Hollywood, John Peters, in his early years. And I got to say, man, there was actually parts where it almost had me on the edge because there were moments when Bradley Cooper's on screen where he really goes for it. He becomes really vicious at times, and it almost kind of takes itself where it becomes almost a horror movie with some of the parts that he's in. And because it builds up these moments that can lead to something very intense that might go down. And I'm not gonna go into detail, but it does have a good like payoff to it. The way that that subplot goes for it. But to get my other pros, I will say that the rest of the cast were great. It's always great seeing Sean Penn, Tom Waits, and everyone else involved, and all the little cameos they bring in there. But really, I just really enjoyed the way this story played out, because with them going on these different journeys together throughout the film, you really start to really vibe with them getting to know each other, and it really showcases a lot of them really trying to be like more like very close friends. And I just really appreciate the fact that it takes its time with trying to see a lot of the very grounded approach that Thomas Anderson does, because from what I actually heard, that the conversations that some of the characters have in this, including parts that involve with Elena's family, they actually didn't really use much of a script. And so there are points where it comes across where like when they're arguing like with their family and stuff, there's moments where it actually comes across as very authentic and very like almost like improvised. And I thought it really worked. And what's pretty interesting is that the family members that are actually of Elena's family, that's actually her real life sisters and all them. So I thought that was pretty unique how they were able to do that on film. But then I also got to really appreciate the cinematography is outstanding in this. And I don't know what it is, but Paul Thomas Anderson really likes to use these like blue kind of like lens flares that he uses in a lot of his films, I noticed. But it really gives it a very great like colorful parts. And one of the other biggest things I have to appreciate on a filmmaking standpoint is I love the fact that he shot this on 35mm film, which I haven't really seen a movie shot on film like that in a while. So I appreciate that him going for that gritty 70s style and going back in the old days and giving that authentic look. It really looks like an authentic 70s movie. And that's kind of also going to the approach where the actual movie that's surrounding the 70s really puts you into the kind of place where you're seeing like the old like ways that the time period and the production design really are spot on with how the cars look, like a lot of the different locations they go into, the arcade stores and things like that. Like it's a very great. I really love when Thomas Anderson puts these movies in a specific time period, like he did with Boogie Nights. I thought this was like a good. Well, I mean, it's kind of a weird double feature. I wouldn't necessarily put this as a double feature of Boogie Nights, but I would say that it's more like a more watered down version compared to Boogie Nights, because it's not really all crazy and very raunchy compared to that movie. But with that being said, though, I mean, there's more I can go into detail, but it's just really more of a very feel-good kind of movie that really, it feels like what they describe as, well, I've heard some other people describe as a hangout movie, so to speak, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And so it does, if I get into so many minor nitpicks, I'll say that it does have some like things that aren't necessarily resolved as far as plot points, because they do bring in some stuff that involves where Elena gets involved with like this political campaign that goes on, and let's just say that there's someone that's kind of like that they show like a couple times throughout the film, that this character they bring in that doesn't really go anywhere. But I think the whole point was just trying to establish that it's really focusing on the little things that tie the whole thing together with Gary and Elena's relationship as they go along. So I can see some of the complaints with the whole thing, how we have characters that come in, don't really have much, resolutions and stuff. But I think it's just more of just like the point of view of where you see each of these characters on their journey. And so the way that it plays out, though, I thought was very fascinating. And it does get funny at times, too. There's a lot of parts where I was just like laughing throughout, and I just really couldn't get enough of it. Like, it was just it felt really, good to see a movie like this that we don't really see too often, and especially in a theater, and original movies like this. So with that being said, I can't recommend this movie enough. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I'm definitely going to put this as one of my best of 2021, and I'm going to give this movie a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Licorice Pizza, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.